Hello and welcome to my free online workshop, How to Plan a Year of Self-Care. So there's quite a lot of content that I'm going to cover, and for this reason, to make it a little bit more digestible and snack size, I have broken it up into 4 videos. So this is part 1, but I'll just go over quickly what we're going to cover in all 4 videos. So we're going to look at what self-care is and what it isn't, because there is a little bit of confusion in our culture, I think, about exactly what self-care is and isn't. We're going to look at how you can identify your unmet needs so that you're engaging in self-care activities that are really right for you as an individual. And believe it or not, all of us have some resistance and some patterns that are self-sabotaging to our own self-care. So we're going to have a look at these and how we can actually overcome these. And we're also going to have a look at the daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly self-care tools that we can start to integrate into our routine, into our calendar and schedule to create a year of self-care. So if you're wondering who I am, my name is Sharee James. I'm a naturopath. If you're not sure what a naturopath is, we study the basic medical sciences and then holistic medicine as well. So things like clinical nutrition, herbal medicine, homeopathy, iridology, that kind of thing. I'm also a yoga and a meditation teacher and a retreat facilitator. Been running retreats in the Himalayas of Nepal for the past 7 years through my company Ashima Living. I'm also a featured wellness expert and guest contributor to a lot of different publications and online wellness and spirituality websites. You might have seen my stuff in Mind Body Green or Tiny Buddha, Yoga Life, Positively Positive, quite a few out there. All right, let's get into it. Let's have a look at what is and isn't self-care. It's really important to understand that self-care at its core is really just healthcare, particularly preventative healthcare. It's all about identifying what our needs are and making sure that we meet those needs. But we do need to have a broader definition of healthcare than what the orthodox definition is. I think the orthodox medical world looks at healthcare or health as simply an absence of symptoms or an absence of disease. But I'm inviting you to look at a much, much broader picture of what health and well-being is. It's about thriving and feeling fulfilled and happy physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, and spiritually. We're very complex beings, and so self-care is about making sure that we're thriving in all areas of our lives. It is definitely not selfish. I'll go into this a little bit more later because I think it's a big problem that a lot of people have, is feeling that they're being selfish if they take care of their own needs. But it's also not pampering. So I don't want you to think it's like going off to the nail salon and getting a manicure or, binge watching TV because you're tired. This isn't self-care. It's got to be really meeting a fundamental need that enhances your wellness. And it's also not a band-aid approach. So what I mean by that is, let's say, for example, you're very tired at work one particular day because you didn't go to bed early enough the night before. Now, your true unmet need is rest. And if you're tuned into your body, you probably would have gone to bed earlier, or you would have a nap or somehow give yourself that fulfillment of the need for rest. But what we do instead is we try to override that need and may think that that's self-care. You may go and have a nice big cup of coffee and a piece of chocolate cake to power you through. But unfortunately, that's at the expense of your physical well-being, and it's at the expense of your body's true need for rest. Or another example could be that classic cliche of, let's say, when you're feeling emotionally down, you go and eat a tub of ice cream or drink a few glasses of wine, thinking that it's going to make you feel better. The true unmet need is the need to process your emotions and to experience those feelings rather than cover them up with something stimulating like ice cream or alcohol. So it's it's got to be, self-care is really meeting needs, but not at the expense of other needs. So I hope that makes sense. So let's look at what some of our needs are. On the physical level, of course, we need sleep, we need rest, we need to move our bodies, and we need to eat nourishing, nutrient-dense foods. On a mental and emotional level, we have needs for creativity, for fun, for socializing with other people, for processing our feelings and emotions, and also for healing past traumas and hurts. And on a spiritual level, we have needs for silence, for stillness and solitude, and for connecting to both our inner selves and to something larger than ourselves. And you can define that however you want to for yourself. So let's have a look now at what gets in the way of our self-care, because let's face it, most of us know a lot of this stuff. It's not new, it's not rocket science, but we have trouble actually creating self-care habits and actually making them very tangible, regular parts of our lives and our routines. So one big problem is putting ourselves last on our list of priorities. Partly this is cultural, I think. It can be especially true for women. I think women in particular have had a lot of conditioning that they're supposed to be the caregivers. They're supposed to put everyone and everything else first, and then if there's anything left over at the end, that's for them. So if this is you, you need to have a good look at that and just have a look at where you sit on your priorities, and also to really get clear on the fact that if you are depleted, if you're not meeting your own needs, you're going to not be able to give your best to anything or anyone. Everyone around you is going to suffer on some level if your tank isn't full. So it's actually not selfish at all. It's self-preservation, and it's also meaning that everyone around you gets the best from you. So related to this as well is a sense of perfectionism, workaholism, and martyrdom. So, just that constant, oh, I'm so busy, I have to do this, I have to do that. And it's like we kind of, on one level we don't want to be so busy, but on another level we get a little subtle, almost subconscious ego boost from it as well. It makes us feel important, makes us feel like we're good people, right? Because our culture rewards us for productivity, for achievement, for what you're doing. And it almost can become a little bit competitive too. I don't know if you've noticed this, but it's like, oh, this is how busy I am. This is how much I did. I'm the supermom. I'm this, I'm that. So again, if this is you, just take a look at that and just have a look at whether this boost to your self-worth is really worth it. What would it mean if you could be someone who does rest, who doesn't do too much, who does put yourself first as a priority? So just something to be aware of psychologically. Now, sometimes it's simply a lack of self-care skills. I mean, it's not something we're really taught at school. And a lot of the time it can come back to how we were parented as well. If we were underparented, if our needs weren't met promptly or lovingly or in a very connected way, then we won't necessarily be very able to meet our own needs in that way. And sometimes also it can be the opposite. If we were very spoiled or perhaps babied long into early adulthood and we've never had to be independent or self-reliant, we can be waiting for someone else to fulfill those needs and not necessarily know how to meet them ourselves as well. And sometimes subconsciously it can be this not really wanting to grow up and take responsibility for ourselves. It can be subconsciously this desire for someone else to do it, for someone else to take care of us. And this can happen a lot in romantic relationships. We tend to have this conditioning that once we meet the right person, all of our needs will be fulfilled, we'll be happy, and that it's up to them to make us happy. But really, we're the only ones that are truly responsible for our own sense of aliveness, joy, and well-being. Another factor can be that sometimes we can be afraid of our own needs, particularly if we're holding on to some emotional feelings that we haven't processed or that we don't really want to go near. A lot of our busyness sometimes can be a way of just avoiding ourselves, because it can be really scary to face ourselves and to go within. So it could also be fear as well. So let's look at how we can start to overcome these resistances. So I would invite you to pause and grab a journal and a pen, or a piece of paper and a pen, and just to write down this question: where does self-care sit on my current list of priorities, and why is it there? And I would invite you to spend some time with this question. Ponder it over like a week and just keep adding to the answers that you come up with. And another way to look at it, if you feel a bit unsure about where it does sit on your list of priorities, is just have a look at how you're spending your time, because how we spend our time shows us what we're truly prioritizing. And if you're not spending much time actively in self-care, then chances are it's not very big on your list of priorities. Question number 2, so write this one down as well. What aspects of my life, for example, your attitudes, your beliefs, your behaviors, your habits, your commitments, are holding you back from making yourself a priority? So you want to start looking at, you've got this idea of the self-care you would want to implement, but how's your life really stacking up? What's getting in the way? Again, you probably want to sit with this question for a week or so and keep adding to it. And then the third question: how can I reduce the influence of these things? Now, of course, we all do lead very busy lives, and time is a commodity that unfortunately a lot of us are a little bit short of. So when it comes to making time for ourselves, for self-care, we really have to be a little bit strict. It comes down to knowing what our priorities are and being very realistic about how we're actually spending our time. And if we don't have any extra time, then something has to go. We've got to get rid of something that's taking up our time that's not really that good for us. And so we need to make a don't do list instead of a to-do list. So as I said before, how we spend our time will show us what we prioritize. And you need to start shifting your mindset about you being an important enough priority on your to-do list. And start getting very clear about what you're doing instead in your daily life. So the don't do list. You want to get rid of anything that's kind of neither relaxing nor productive. So things like watching too much TV, surfing the net, faffing around on social media. We spend so much time doing this. I read a study that TV alone, most people watch 25 hours a week. I mean, that's a part-time job. So get very realistic on how much time you are spending on these activities and start reducing it. Don't check email more than once or twice a day. Don't overwork. Try not to stay up too late. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. And another important one is be very mindful if you've got certain types of people in your life that are very negative and draining and, just want to whinge and that kind of thing. I don't want to be harsh, and I'm not at all talking about friends or family that are in a genuine crisis and that need some support or assistance. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about if you've got those people, you'll know who I mean, that are just energy vampires. You might have to get quite strict and just start putting a limit on how much time you spend with them or how much time you allow them to take from your day. All right, so that's enough content for today, because there's quite a lot in there if you actually do the journal questions and ponder them over some time. So for your homework before the next video, I'd like you to answer the journal questions on what is standing in the way of your self-care and to create your own don't do list before the next video. And of course, if you want to be notified of when the next video is out, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. And also you'll get other free wellness and self-care trainings as well. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the training, and I will see you in the next video.